Welcome to Consumer Connection. My name is Christine Reedy, a consumer specialist with Fairfax County Consumer Affairs. I have with me today Carl Varner, Ombudsman of the Northern Virginia Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Welcome, Carl.
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here with you.
As many of you know, the Long-Term Care Ombudsman advocates for improving the quality of life for persons receiving long-term care services. Consumers can voice their complaints and have their concerns formally addressed by the Long-Term Care Ombudsman. Today's topic focuses on the services provided by the Long-Term Care Ombudsman, how the program originated, rights you or your loved one has at the nursing home or assisted living facilities, the process for typical facility visits, and volunteer opportunities. Carl, what exactly is a long-term care and is a long-term care ombudsman?
Well, Christine, that's an excellent question. Great way to start things off. So long-term care are the kinds of services that you find in a nursing home, an assisted living facility, or that are provided through a home health care agency in one's own private home. And they specifically include nursing services, therapy and rehab services, the kinds that are provided by a physical therapist or an occupational therapist, caregiving services that are provided by an aide or attendant for things like activities of daily living, including bathing, dressing, using the bathroom, eating, and that sort of thing. Inside an actual facility like a nursing home, there are additional services that a long-term care recipient may receive along the lines of recreational activities, social work services, housekeeping and maintenance services, and that sort of thing. An ombudsman basically is a Swedish term which means advocate. And under federal law, it's the ombudsman's responsibility to improve the quality of life and care of long-term care recipients, whether they're receiving long-term care services in a nursing home, assisted living facility, or at an adult day health care center, or at home, or from hospice. It's the ombudsman's responsibility to help that resident as the first step to try to empower the resident, maybe to address any concerns or solve any problems that they may have on their own. And if they can't solve a problem on their own, we are available to help step in, advocate, work with the management of the service provider to try to address whatever concern they have with the staff, with the services they're receiving, with the physical environment in which they're living in, all by way of trying to have them live their best life. And so our goal is empowerment of the resident, and if empowerment of the resident and their ability to take care of their own situation is not sufficient, we remain always available to step in and try to help advocate for a good outcome to a problem. The Ombudsman Program services are completely free and confidential. This is a government benefit mandated by Congress for anyone who receives long-term care services. And while we are only one of several agencies within oversight of long-term care that has a complaint process, oftentimes we're the place folks like to start with when they need to solve a problem, because we don't have enforcement authority like the licensing agency. We use diplomacy, for the lack of a better term. We negotiate with managers and supervisors at long-term care facilities and with service providers. We use those relationships to try to educate and pivot off of what the resident is experiencing to try to encourage a positive solution to a legitimate concern.
Perfect. So how did Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program originate?
So, Christine, it originated in 1978 with the authorization of the Older Americans Act. Beginning decades ago and increasingly so through the years, as is common knowledge, people are living longer. they're living with medical conditions, but they need support. And that's where long-term care comes in. And they can't rely on natural supports as much as they used to, like family or friends. Well, in the case of families, sometimes they're living far apart. And the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program was started back in the 70s and 80s and is increasingly built up and expanded and strengthened in order to meet the need of older adults to have an advocate that can help protect the kind of quality of life they're expecting through long-term care services.
Perfect. So does the Northern Virginia Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program only cover Fairfax County?
No. So in Virginia, the Ombudsman Program is run regionally, and I work for the Northern Virginia region. For administrative purposes, we're housed in Fairfax County government, but we cover also Loudoun and Arlington counties, as well as the city of Alexandria. Prince William County was part of the Northern Virginia region up until about 10 years ago, but then they decided to have their own ombudsman program. The number of facilities that we have in the Northern Virginia region is about 145. We have 7.5 full-time equivalent staff, like myself, and we have about 30 trained and certified ombudsman volunteers. Each of those volunteers is matriculated at a particular facility where they go in each week and are available to residents to try to address concerns.
That's awesome. So what other services does the Northern Virginia Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program provide?
Well, the core of our mission is advocacy, Christine, and that is our bread and butter. That's where we really earn our keep, is to go out of our way to resolve complaints that residents have in as diplomatic a way as possible with the facility leadership. Over and beyond that, a lot of folks out in the public don't even know we exist. So we're doing a lot of outreach and educational activities. We do those activities with community groups that are outside of facilities, but we'll visit facilities, we'll educate residents and staff alike about federal resident rights, what residents can reasonably expect in long-term care, and how we as the Ombudsman Program go about protecting the quality of life and care of residents and recipients of long-term care services. So another core function that we have that we do a lot of is just basic information and assistance to the public and to residents and beneficiaries of long-term care. So a family member may call us and say, my parent has decided to consider a long-term care facility. We can go back and look at all the information we have about a particular facility and share what kind of complaints we've had with that resident, with that older adult or family member or responsible party, just by way of giving them insight as to what's going on at that facility so they can make a more informed choice. And to learn more about our advocacy services or to just learn more about our other activities or our program in general, anyone can call our intake line at 703-324-5861. Again, 703-324-5861. Or consider going to our website, and there's an email address and more contact information there.
That's perfect. So as advocates, does your program make visits to each facility?
Yes. So there's different types of visits that we make. We're required under federal and state regulations to be in a facility at least once per quarter. Even those facilities that don't have a history of a lot of resident concerns, we're required to go at least one time per quarter, visit with the residents, get a feel for what's going on, educate them about their rights, talk to them about the program and what we're available to do for them in terms of advocacy and providing insight about long-term care services in general and the long-term care industry. So we're providing all that kind of information and education. Sometimes when we do a quarterly site visit like that, someone will bring a complaint right there and then and ask us to intervene, and we'll start the process of advocating as appropriate right there and then. And over and beyond our regular quarterly visits, which we do unannounced, so it's not as if the facility knows we're coming or has any opportunity to prepare for us ahead of time. That element of surprise, I guess you could say, is important because we're able to see things as they really are inside a long-term care facility. But the bottom line is that we can go anytime we have a legitimate need to be inside that facility. So certainly if an advocacy case has been open for us, we can go to deal just with the issues surrounding that case. There's the regular site visits, and then we do visits that we do schedule ahead of time, whereby, as I mentioned earlier, we're providing education and outreach to inform people about resident rights.
Okay. So what does a typical site visit look like?
So a typical site visit is unannounced, the ones that we have to do quarterly, and we'll go in. One of the sources of power that we do have, we don't have enforcement power, we don't have the power to force a plan of correction or to fine or sanction a facility when they do something inappropriate. But one of the sources of power we do have is we have the right as a program to be inside a facility anytime, 24/7, that we have deemed it and we have a legitimate need to be there. So we can see what's going on and we can seek face time with supervisors and leadership at that facility in order to try to address an issue. But in terms of a typical facility visit, a quarterly site visit, we're going there, we're randomly going around, talk to residents in common areas or in their private units, however we can try to connect with them and talk about what's going on there. And we use all of our senses to get a feel for what's going on in the facility. Because if, for example, if there's an odor throughout the facility that clearly shouldn't be there, that's a systemic case on behalf of all the residents. No resident would want to live with an unnecessary odor, so we may address that odor. We may see things like falling or tripping hazards that we may want to bring to the leadership's attention at that facility. So we're using all our senses to see what's going on there, bringing issues up as appropriate on behalf of the entire community, and then working with individuals in terms of what they're individually experiencing, getting input, and then when requested, intervening and trying to improve a situation, whether it be with the staff or, again, a housekeeping or maintenance issue, or maybe an issue with a particular department within that facility, like the billing department. Basically, A to Z, we can run the gamut of trying to advocate to improve any element of a person's experience inside a long-term care facility.
Perfect. So I know you mentioned rights. So what exactly are my rights or my family members' rights at a nursing home or an assisted living facility?
Well, Christine, basically it boils down to two main rights: the right to choice inside long-term care and the right to privacy and confidentiality inside long-term care. Basically, a resident or somebody living in their own home into which long-term care services is coming has the right to be a part of their own care plan, their treatment decisions, and planning for their future. They have a right to be informed well ahead of time of any major decision, such as the need for them to leave a facility for whatever reason. They have a right to all kinds of privacy when it comes to receiving unopened mail, being able to have private conversations. Even when they're in a roommate or a shared room situation, they have rights to privacy, to meet visitors in a private area if in their unit. They can't have a private conversation, so privacy is very important. Of course, they have the right to dignity and respect and to be free from any kind of even subtle abuse by the staff, and that's a lot that's implicit in those areas and a lot of examples underneath those areas that we work on as ombudsman.
Perfect. So I know that because we all care about our family members, you might have some concerns. What are some concerns in long-term care facilities?
Well, broadly defined, I was mentioning the different service areas of long-term care. You have nursing assistance services, you have therapy and rehab services, PT, occupational therapy, inside nursing facilities and assisted living. You'll have the activities department, and with nursing homes, a social work department, housekeeping and maintenance departments. Our most common complaints have to do with care-related services. Hygiene-related services, services where call bell, like especially in a nursing home or in an assisted living facility, when a resident uses their pendant to call for assistance for one reason or another, where those call bell response times are inadequate and the resident's having to go too long without getting their need met in a timely fashion. We have concerns having to do with unaddressed symptoms, could be physical, emotional symptoms. Somebody's chronic pain isn't being properly managed, and they want us to intervene and advocate for a better treatment plan or better care plan for them. Medication management errors is another type of complaint we get. We get a lot of dietary and food-related complaints. We get complaints staffing related, not enough staff, or even when there is enough, there's attitude problems on behalf of the staff. And then sometimes when there's not enough staff, in spite of how professional they are, we have to work on making sure that there are enough staff in place to meet the needs of residents. Staff attitudes, subtle abuse, verbal abuse usually, is something we have to intervene on a lot. And then physical environment issues, housekeeping issues, maintenance issues. And it could be something as simple as clothing gone missing. But when you lose a lot of your own control as an older adult in need of long-term care services, these little things like clothing going missing, a simple maintenance issue, we get a lot of those concerns. And they may not seem like much to us, but to that person, they're very important. So we work on all of it, small issues, large issues, and everything in between.
Perfect. So if my family member is in a nursing home or an assisted living and I have concerns about their care, how do I go about finding an ombudsman to help me?
Well, the first thing to do is to call our intake line. And we have ombudsmen covering intake Monday through Friday during regular business hours. And then beyond that, a person can leave a message and will receive a call either that same business day or the next business day. And that number again is 703-324-5861. And our website and other contact information is available. The email address rather, and our other contact information is available at our website. And at many facilities, a resident, their first interaction with the Ombudsman Program may be a volunteer that we have at that particular facility. And that volunteer is equipped to explain more about the Ombudsman Program, what that volunteer can do, and the kinds of services they can also get through the central office where I work.
Perfect. I love this because I actually knew a couple of people, I had some people that I cared about deeply that were in nursing and facility programs or facilities. And so being a volunteer is great. How can someone become a volunteer with your program?
Well, again, very important for our program is that intake number. If you're a person who has a lot of empathy, a lot of interest, as you clearly do in the quality of life of what older adults are experiencing, and you want to be involved in part of that solution to protect the quality of care and life for older adults, we want to hear from you. We'd love to have you as a volunteer, and they would call 703-324-5861, leave a message, and most likely that person would hear back from our full-time volunteer coordinator who works on training and getting new volunteers ramped up and certified by the state of Virginia. We ask our volunteers to spend on average 4 hours a week in a facility, getting to know residents, helping them address their concerns with the volunteers' point of contacts at that particular facility. So the great thing about our volunteers and our staff is we share this passion with wanting to help older adults and really putting the resident of a nursing home or an assisted living facility or the recipient of hospice or home health care agencies at the center. We are 100% resident directed. It's as if they're our boss. If they have a reasonable concern, chances are it's going to be explicitly or implicitly covered by resident rights as enumerated by federal and state law and regulations. And if they have this reasonable concern, we're going to be interested in helping them address that concern because residents know what's best for them, and we want to help them live their best lives. And so if there are folks who'd like to volunteer and help with that mission, we really would love to hear from them.
That's perfect. Well, Carl, thank you so much for joining us today to share such valuable information about the Northern Virginia Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. If you have a consumer issue, please contact us at 703-222-8435. You can like us on Facebook at Fairfax County Consumer Affairs or visit our website at www.fairfaxcounty.gov/cable consumer. Join us next month for Consumer Connection. Enjoy your day.